Expected about 6 of y'all, and I was hoping to see Crafton, and that happened. And Madeline, I don't know if you remember me. We sold fruit trees one farm day at Echo together.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I was the one that messed things up. You remember?
Familiar face.
Yes. And my wife was the manager of retail there for a while.
Yeah.
So, anyway, thank you. This is such an honor to be here. And I don't know, I guess if I want the slide to go, I just clap and it
Clap,
goes.
nod,
Yeah.
Bill.
All right.
Next.
All right, next slide, please. So you know all this. Here we are. And I just love it that we can be here and grow what we can grow. If we could just grow rambutan, you know, if we could just grow durian, yes, then it would be just the perfect world that I will always take mango, and grateful to be in mango season. And if you have a question, if I say something ridiculous, stop me, and I will, you know, we can sort that out as well. But we will move along into the third slide. So I did spend over 20 years in Southeast Asia. So back in the 80s, I was in the Philippines a couple of years, and that was my introduction. So prior to that, I grew up in Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, and so I knew all about blackberries and Concord grapes and Rome Beauty apples, and I'd seen a pawpaw growing here and there, and those mountain blueberries. But to be able to go into that part of the world, and I wish I had just a slideshow of all the fruit that I love in Southeast Asia. I mean, this is not even beginning to touch those. Is anyone from that part of the world or lived in that area? Where are you from?
Cambodia and Laos.
Oh.
Vietnam.
Okay. Wow, loud, huh? So you know these, and so has anyone, by the way, Burmese grape, anyone ever eaten a Burmese grape? It's has anyone seen one? Is there one in Florida? Is anyone aware of that? Because that to me is the holy grail. If you can find the Burmese grape. And then there's another one. You know Maprang? Maprang is a Marian plum. So I've got a little one, and it is struggling so badly. I have a Burmese friend in Louisville who sent me the seeds that he expectorated through the mail, and I planted them, and they sprouted. And I don't think they like our alkaline, sandy soils so much. But I'm just, every day, just praying that one will just decide to have the will to live and produce. But
Feed them some coffee greens. Coffee grounds.
Do you know that one? I mean, have you had it?
That'll add acid. It will add
Gotcha.
acid
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Or
Yeah.
peat moss.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
In Pine Island, there is a gentleman by the name of John Painter.
Yes.
And he has producing trees, Maprang.
Wow.
And I have one probably for over 10 years.
Yeah.
It is maybe 5 feet tall.
Did it produce?
Not yet.
Okay.
One is from seed.
All right. I mean, that's a really good one to me. There's so many good ones. So anyway, sorry, I'm going down memory lane. We'll go on to the next. So I moved here in 2013. Our family was in northern Thailand from 1994 through 2013. We worked along the Thai-Burma border and agricultural development. We had an NGO that we worked with there. And then in 2009, Echo, y'all been to Echo, I'm sure, asked me to open up their Asian office in Chiang Mai, which I did, and that was fun. That was for 4 years. And then finally, we'd have been away for that stretch for around 19 years, and our kids were a certain age, and our parents were a certain age, and we needed to get back kind of reluctantly. And we moved to North Fort Myers, about less than a mile from Echo. And anyway, had a clean slate to work with. So that's just I was excited because I worked at Echo and we bought them out. All right, next slide. So, of course, I bought and planted a carambola. And I like carambola. And when I lived in the Philippines, one thing I would see with carambola was I lived on a farm. It was a demonstration farm, and people would be picking tomatoes all day, and they'd have, the tomato stuff all over, and they would grab that balingbing, they called it, and everyone would get one off a tree, and it was like gojo. And that would just eat off that gunk. And balingbing, by the way, is the word for star fruit there. It's also the word for hypocrite and politician. But I planted our balingbing, and within a couple of years, 2 years, it was producing, and it was nice. It was a carry. And then I started trying to give them away, being neighborly, and my neighbors didn't want it. They're like, we're from Minnesota, we don't eat those. And then my Sunday school class got sick of me pretty fast. And I thought, this is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I appreciate star fruit. I eat one for breakfast most mornings when it's not mango season. And it's a wonderful tree. It produces, that is a heavy-hitting fruit tree. I tried to make wine out at one time. I didn't succeed with that.
I made ice cream.
Oh, you make ice cream out of everything.
Yeah.
I've known you for an hour.
I mixed it with mango.
Okay, I could go for a starfruit ice cream. So this tree led one thing to another. We started a nonprofit basically because of this tree. We had to get rid of the fruit, and we're do-gooders, so that's what we did. All right, next slide. I don't remember what that one is. All right, immokalee. So, as Jorge was saying, and you all probably know much of this, but immokalee, I love immokalee. Kind of a dusty place, and the census varies. It's somewhere between 25,000. I've read 35,000, but that population varies based on the season. Also, it's hard to count in immokalee. There are people who might not want to report on things given the situation. How many of you are familiar with a book called Tomato Land? Yeah. Did you like the book?
Yeah, I loved it. I grew up here, so it was really close to home.
So I didn't know about immokalee when I first heard. I was in the States that summer of 2011. I think it was NPR. They were interviewing the author who lived in Naples, I believe. And he described following a truck full of green orbs. And he saw an orb fall off the truck and bounce and did not go splat. And that intrigued him. He's a food writer and a chef. So he knows about tomatoes. But he began to write about tomatoes, and that led him to immokalee. And instead of just, being a technical, sentimental book about tomatoes, it did lead into the farm worker situation. And there's the data you can see. I got a lot, like the U.S. Census, so 37% under the poverty line. The Immokalee Fair Housing Alliance had data on how much the rent is, and I work right beside the trailers, and there are a lot of people living in those trailers, and they're not in the best shape. So that's a lot of rent. And you've heard of the word food desert, and so if you look up the USDA food desert, and they're using other terms, but you can still use the term food desert, and that basically would be a place where good, affordable food is a bit distant. It doesn't. So in Immokalee, there are little stores all the way around. There's Fiesta Mart, and there's all those stores, and you can buy food. But early on, I went in there, and I kind of stood out. But I was looking at the prices, so I was actually pricing some basic things like Goya beans and Goya rice, and I compared because they were all selling that. And then I went to the Winn-Dixie on the north part of town of Immokalee, which was 2 miles away outside of the food desert. And then I went to the North Fort Myers Winn-Dixie, and the prices were about 25% higher there inside of Immokalee. So that's one of the indicators of the food desert. You can have Dollar General stores, you can have the small mini marts, but the prices will often be higher, and you don't have a great selection of fresh food as well. All right, enough depressing information. Oh, how many of y'all know Gene McAvoy? I got to know Gene at Echo, and so if you see Gene, tell him I quoted him. So when the pandemic hit, I remember I was driving from Immokalee to Naples, and Gene was being interviewed. I think it was on Gulf Coast Life, and he gave that information there. He actually didn't say how many million pounds that was, but he said around 400 to 500 trucks leave a day, and he said each truck has a capacity of around 35,000 pounds. And I did the math on my head. I remembered what he said, then I worked on the math a little later, and I was astounded. And I thought, well, surely that's the entire region, so maybe going up to LaBelle and Arcadia, but no. So I found this article and I Googled it later, and he said that is the Immokalee area, which I don't know how far. I mean, I still have questions. Where does Immokalee really end and begin, Metro Immokalee? But look at that. I mean, we feed the world. And he was saying in 2020, in March, April, how much food was plowed under at that time because the market collapsed. Hotels closed. There were no longer cruise ships leaving Tampa, which needed tomatoes. And so I found that information astounding, and yet the irony. All right, we'll go to the next one. Also, Collier County is not poor. You know, every time I look at how rich Collier County is, it's always in the top 5 counties in Florida. But the thing, you may have remembered in the News Sentinel back in 2016, there was an article about the disparity. So you compare the top 1% with the rest. And Collier County has the second highest income disparity in the country. Number 1 is Jackson, Wyoming. I've never been to Wyoming, but that is the highest. And then Collier County. You think about it, there's Marco Island, it's not poor. Naples, not very poor. And then Immokalee. So there is a gradient as you drive through that county there. Cultivate Abundance. So because we had too many starfruit, actually we were involved in Immokalee through a food pantry, which Jorge knows about, which is Mission Peniel on Boston Avenue. My church is a part of the Peace River Presbytery, so there's about 3 dozen churches that support that work. And so I would sneak out of Echo every now and then and go work there on a Friday afternoon. So they served from 3:30 till about 6:30. Yesterday it was till 7. And that's when people come back into town. We're located where the buses pick up around 5:30, 6 in the morning, and then they come back. And on Fridays they're being paid. And so the troqueros are out there paying the guys and women and who are on the bus, and then they often come by through to get food. Years ago, Pastor Miguel Estrada, who's a director, would provide a hot meal. It was chili and rice, and then there would be things like hygiene products and stuff. But since COVID, he stopped the hot meal, and we get food from the 2 food banks in Fort Myers, plus what we provide. And we asked a lot of questions. Would it be redundant to bring starfruit into Immokalee? And he said no. And we did, and they would go like that. Now you'd think there ought to be a lot of starfruit trees in Collier County, Immokalee, but there's not enough. And so that was kind of the premise of how we started. Yes, sir.
I love the simple stove there, stove top.
We just made that.
You could bake in it. My question is, concrete will fall and explode. Do you have to use fire bricks or?
We're gonna see. So what happened? That was just built 2 weeks ago. So yeah, we may have a disaster on it. No, the guy that designed it is a guy named Greg Blimpton, who is Peace Corps in Peru. And Greg would make these rocket stoves. When I was at Echo, we had this fine AT, appropriate technology department, and you can make rocket stoves out of cans and out of bricks and all that. And that's just a bigger one, and so you got the comal there that Maria's making the tortillas with.
But inside.
And I had to
is not
find the fire brick. Yeah, there's fire brick.
Oh, there is.
And I couldn't find it here. I had to go all the way to Alabama to get 20 fire brick. I think that thing costs around $200, but the other day I got there late on Thursday. I had to pick up fruit in various places, and I came in, and my team members were making tamale or taco. They had tacos, but they had tortillas, and they were grilling pork chops and all that. So I got in there just in time to enjoy that.
Cool.
Anyway, so our approach is pretty simple. Our approach is that we, as a small team, grow as much as we can, which that won't be very much. And then the next level is to accept as much local produce as we can. And we want it to be local. We want it to come from small producers, hint, hint, hint. That's why I came here with an agenda. And, you know, we want, and one reason why we do that, we would know who you are, and we believe that you don't mistreat people when you grow that stuff. And you're nice folks who would share these things, and you've been nice to the earth in the process. So that's the idea. But also, Immokalee, you know, you've got Guatemalans and Haitians and Mexicans and so many other people, and the food there is quite amazing. And there are cooks, and we get to meet those cooks every Friday. And I'd like to follow them home, but they would get creeped out. I do get invited sometimes, but COVID made it hard. So we are celebrating food culture as much as we can. We're going to have Masa Day pretty soon. And all right, any questions on that?
The netting is for what purpose?
Oh, thank you for asking.
Uh-huh.
All right, what do you think?
Well, originally I was thinking to kind of hold the plant up while it starts so it doesn't, you know, fall over, or a mass ejection of the plants.
No, none of that. It's the damn chickens.
We'll get in there and read the rest.
There are chickens all over Immokalee. They are feral, semi-feral, mean, and I pray for hawks to come. Every time I see hogs, I go, there, go get those guys. Because the chickens, we built, see that fence back there?
Yeah.
It's 6 foot.
So
And
they
the
go
chickens
over.
are evolving.
Yeah.
And they, you know, they're coming over. And then we went, all right, we'll fix you chickens. And we put wire up on the top, and it was kind of like, and then they don't like that, but they go to the neighbor's trailer, and then they dive bomb while we're gone, and they scratch up the beds, and we'll come back on like Thursday morning and go, and we're just, you know, we can be, sometimes we are in tears. I mean, they have destroyed hundreds of dollars. That is 1/10 of an acre garden. No, it doesn't feed Immokalee, but it literally produces a ton of food, over 2,000 pounds of what, and people come in and help us. They're involved, and so when the chickens come in, that works. So
It does work, and what is it? I mean, you get that something at
it's
Home
at Lowe's.
Depot?
Yeah, Lowe's. It's Lowe's construction fence.
Construction fence.
Home Depot, and that's we
And it's
just
working.
basically
They can't
drape
get
it
it.
all over the entire farm.
They can hack down in it, but not.
Yeah,
So,
but the chickens are smart, and so we had one that had been there like for 2 years, and it starts breaking down, and the chickens went, I think we can get through it. And it worked.
Do they eat the plants?
Let's go back one, if it's okay.
Do the chickens eat the plants as well?
What they want to do is just rip up our organic matter laden soil, because we've been adding compost because they know there's critters in there.
Or
Worms.
they don't care about the plants at all?
Not so much. They want to go what's for the soil life is what they're after. But anyway, so that's that's the garden there, and that's my wife there in the Peace Love shirt, picking up those Morado sweet potatoes at a church garden. So she's the director. I just work for her. All right, I guess we can go on. Mango. So I want to go with my top 10, okay? And if you get mad at me, fine. We can argue right here. And I'm going to leave some out. And you're going to go, you know, Crafton's going to go, what? You left out. Whatever. So, but mango. I mean, anybody going to argue with that? No. And guys, why are we so snobby about turpentine mangoes? There's not a thing wrong with it. There's fiber, and we all need fiber. And what would a Cuban do? What do Cubans do when they get a little turpentine mango? What do?
Pummel it, and then
Then
make a
they
hole.
suck it out. That's exactly right. They know what to do. They learned that when they were 2. So we need to learn to do that. So anyway, and at my house, mango, I did bring 1 mango, so you got one. My nam dok mai went to you. And I've been eating nam dok mais for breakfast for a week. So mine have come in early, and I have a Glen over there.
Ooh,
So it's been early this year. I don't know why.
a few have.
All right, well, unless there's any mango comments, we will go to the next crop. Papaya. Guys, papaya is both is easy and hard to grow. It can be such a baby. I can have a great year or 2 years. I'm like, we can really grow papayas so well. And then the next year, it's a disaster. And part of it, I think, and do you all know Danny Blank? Well, yeah, of course you know Danny. So 12 Seasons Farm, we get a lot of papayas from Danny. He grows them well, and he said, you know, that moving around whenever we have the tropical storm come through, he says he really thinks that sets them up for decline. And then the next year, so I treat them like a big tomato. And I also tried saving my own seed. That was a bad idea. Boy, why was that a bad idea?
Why?
Because I got 40% males.
Oh,
And I got it from a guy who told me to do it. And I love him, but maybe he was messing with me. Yes, sir.
Well, I've got the same problem, and a Cuban told me that if I basically circumcise the tree.
Yeah. It's never worked for me. So in Thailand, they said the same thing. And then there's almost like everywhere, they're like, no. They'll say, you need to get a piece of bamboo, stake, and drive it through its heart, or down at the bottom. That'll do it. And then the Guatemalans went, no, no, no. It's a rusty nail. And I've done it all. So far for me, the papaya gods are not listening to my thing. Has anybody succeeded? Because everywhere I go, they say, it can switch to sex.
I've seen them switch to sex.
All right, you're the first.
I have seen them switch.
How do you, so what do you think? How should you do it?
I don't know how he did it, but also talked to some of my friends at the Vietnamese grocery store who advised you put the seeds in water and that the floating one, have you heard that as well? Now, we typically get most of the commercial papayas supposedly are hermaphroditic, is what I read. And those are the ones that I typically
Thai Noon, Red Lady, Maradol.
Usually Red Lady. And, so I distribute them, and then the birds distribute them. I have better success with the ones that find their habitat, right?
Yeah.
Because when I try to grow them,
yeah.
Well, all that said, grow papayas. Now I've got 100 seedlings, or a mixture of Maradol and another. And if you want some, let me know. They're about this tall in Immokalee. I'm hoping by July 1st they'll be about that big or taller, and I'll be glad to share them with you. And if they go bad, we don't judge you. Who are we to judge? So, but anyway, we get a lot of papayas. And the other thing is, the fruit flies. So we just pick them green, and they just seem to. I know there's fruit fly DNA inside that thing, but that's better than fruit fly maggots crawling out of the holes. And so when we harvest, we just squeeze them. If it's gushy or anything leaking out, that's our indicator. But the Haitians love green papaya. I have not seen them reject. So I'll have some that are kind of like the solos. It might be that big, as long as it's maturing and not going bad, and you don't have that little yellow spot in that green one that lets you know that something's going on. They take it goes into soup. And of course, if you're a Thai, or you're a Cambodian, you're going to make somtam or that kind of delicious salad out of that. So, and I've been in mountain villages in Thailand where I was eating. I said, "What is this? This is like cabbage." And they went, "Green papaya." So stir fried. So it is a absolute blessing. We should grow more. Everybody should eat it every day. All right, carambola. So that tree that I planted last year, I got 450 pounds off of that thing. I mean, that's just a normal little tree. It's about this tall. It's not, you know, but it's
What do you fertilize with?
Lee County compost. And then I throw all my leaves underneath, so my neighbors don't see it. I live in an HOA. Don't tell them, but I try to chop and drop, and I throw things under the carambola, and they can't see all that's in there rotting. So I want it to be like a rainforest under there. So there's Lee County compost, and there's rotting ginger plant leaves and all that. So anyway, everybody loves a star fruit. All right, avocado. I can't say much more about that. I mean, everyone loves an avocado. I know we can get in arguments about what our favorite avocado is. I mean, you know, so Miguel from Guatemala says he only wants a Haas or a Super Haas, but the Haitians are just quite fine with a choquette. And I love just picking that big giant choquette. It makes me feel good. I feel important for that day whenever I pick the giant choquette.
So does a Haas fruit here?
Super Haas.
There's a Florida Haas.
Super Haas. And we had Super Haas, so Felipa is picking the leaves off the Super Haas. So I speak pretty good Thai and caveman Spanish. And I'm very embarrassed, but I'm 60, so I mean, you know, I learned Thai when I was 32, so I'm now old, and so I'm my Spanish. So Felipa came in a couple of years ago. I said, "Where you go?" And she goes, "I'm going to the avocado," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, there's no avocados on it." And I brought that up in my bad Spanish, and she said, "I want the hojas," and I was like, "What?" And so then I see them selling the dried. It's a bay leaf basically.
Yeah.
And you put it in mole and all kinds of good stuff. So.
Marcus Pumpkin is a good variety too.
Which one?
Marcus Pumpkin avocado. Looks like a pumpkin, shaped
Wow.
like a pumpkin. Very good.
And you've grown it here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued. So like that.
They get about that big.
What
Yeah.
months?
Very late summer.
Okay. All right.
And in the Yucatan, the underground cooking, you know, think Hawaii, luau, which is called kabir.
Yeah.
And they use avocado.
Correct.
Well, it's a laurel, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
in the same family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what else they use though in Immokalee? What are they going to be cooking pit barbecue, barbacoa with? Agave leaves. And if I had some land, I'd grow more of agave. I'd grow agave and aloe and nopales, and they'd be kind of my dry Mexico garden. Bananas are great, but you know, cold season, at least where I live in Lee County, they kind of slow down, and but right now they're coming back again. But with my time at Echo and my growing in different places in Southwest Florida, it seems that you get probably a few good years, and then they start going into a decline. I don't know if there would be any varietal difference in that, or a better way to care for them. But I'm kind of the notion. Well, what I do, I rotate, and I've seen that in Haiti too. I saw them rotating plantains after 2 or 3 years with other crops. I mean, these were rather large plantain farms. And then we got the thick leaf Orinoco, you know, the burro bananas, and so the neighbors come to get those for the tamales. We like that. And you see that picture up on the top? Mm-hmm. So isn't it funny how the food system works? So those tomatoes probably came from Felda, and then they probably went to Atlanta, or who knows, and then they came back through the food bank, and then by the time they got to Mission Peniel, they were rotten. So we just feed them to the bananas. So that's how we do it. Then I cover it with straw so the flies don't get so bad. That might be why chickens do come back there. Jackfruit, I mean, so there is, people want it. I don't know if it's just like, whoa, look at that. But my friend Brian Flanagan, does anyone know Brian? He was at Echo for a while. He speaks Creole Crafton knows Brian. He speaks Creole fluently. He grew up there. And so when he was there while we were giving out the jackfruits, he realized that there was amongst the Haitians a bit of confusion. They were thinking it was breadfruit. But they were still taking it. He said there's a part of, Brian says there's a part of Haiti called Jeremy where they grow a lot of jackfruit and breadfruit. But we have no problem getting rid of breadfruit. The biggest problem is just getting it at the right stage. A lot of us gringos don't know when to pick them. And so we want to get them at the right stage. But like if I get it on Wednesday, by Thursday afternoon, sometimes we're like, oh no, it's in an advanced state of decay and body fluids and stuff. So we got to get it into the cooler.
Where do you get the breadfruit from?
I've got about 4 people, and Sue Lawton is a lady that lives on McGregor, and her tree is that one right there. And I'm not going to tell you. Wait a minute. She doesn't live in McGregor. She lives in Jacksonville. People always come to see her. And I also get them from my neighbor Greg, who is just good at. Everybody has a special gift, and Greg is somehow good.
Are you talking about breadfruit or jackfruit?
No bread. Oh, I'm sorry. No breadfruit. No breadfruit. I'm dyslexic. Jackfruit. Jaka.
Right.
Yes. Sorry.
Well, jackfruit we can get a lot here.
No
Breadfruit is
breadfruit.
hard to get.
No.
Jackfruit we got everywhere here.
Sorry. So that's why you were interested.
Right.
So now you're not interested.
No, if you got it.
Let's go on. That was embarrassing. Coconut. I mean, isn't it true? People just treat the coconuts like leaves and just toss them out. And I see the horticulture guys coming down the street, and they're Haitians, and they're like, they'll take them, but we cannot get rid. I mean, everybody loves a coconut and a broccoli, everyone. And again, if it's a green or a yellow one, you know, it's if it's mature enough, they like it. And if it's brown, make sure it sloshes, and don't have a leaky one. It's just not good. It does make the counts go up, but we also measure servings, so that balances everything out. All right, black sapote. How many of you love black sapote? How many of you are just okay with black sapote? How many of you are like, no way? The world is divided into thirds pretty much on black sapote.
The only thing black like that is mighty fine chocolate pudding. Now,
You won't make ice cream out of it.
no, that's not going in the machine.
Martin Price, who founded Echo, said that's actually his favorite fruit. So anyway, not everyone knows a black sapote, but we have part of our work is to introduce and exchange, and so Lupita, I don't see her, but that's Frenzo. But we'll have like different things where we're introduced, even like a Haitian basket vine. The Haitians would naturally, most of them like Haitian basket vine, but sometimes the Guatemalans go, "What's that?" And Lupita explains it, and they'll say, "I'll try that." So there is that opportunity for exchange, and I sure learn a lot.
What is a basket?
Haitian basket vine, I don't remember the Latin name, but it is, no, it's a vine. It looks like a bougainvillea with no flowers and no thorns. But we planted one. I stole the cutting from Echo when I left in 2017, and then it grew. It's easy to propagate. And we planted it next to the fence, and then we saw Haitians picking it.
For what purpose?
Food.
Oh, you eat the
Mange.
leaves.
And they say it's good for hypertension.
Eat the leaves.
But they say that about everything. I say that about everything. Sapadi is just, guys, why don't we plant? So it's a little too sweet. I'll be honest, it's a little too sweet for me, and I'm pre-diabetic, and I can't eat a lot of really sweet stuff, but dang, it's good, and it's easy to grow. Tim Watkins, who worked at Echo for years, said that when Hurricane Irma hit, so those didn't blow over, like loquats blew over and bamboo blew over, but not the sapodilla. He says they're smart, and they'll just drop their limbs, and the main trunk will remain standing. So that's a good storm smart tree to plant, and plenty of interest in that in Immokalee and elsewhere. And look at the long production seasons. That's what I like about it. I mean, mango, it's not that long. All right. Citrus, hey, I moved to Florida. I mean, I thought we would be getting, I knew better, but I still thought I would get more donations of citrus, and we get the odd lemon, the odd lime. I grow the calamondins, the Philippine calamansis, and I like them. They produce quite well. And I've also got a Persian lime growing in a pot, and that was a trick I learned in Thailand. And it seems to don't take this isn't gospel. This is observation, but it seems to force the production, in my opinion. So try that out. But every time I plant, I have a pomelo. I've got the calamansi and the Persian. No, it's a Meyer lemon. I'm sorry, Meyer lemon growing in the pot, and I expect them to die. They're mortals. They're going to die. Greening is going to come along and get us. Danny Blank thinks some shade growing under some oak trees might help. So try it out.
For limes, the lady was talking about letting nature find the seed, finds where it wants to be. That's where they do the best.
Yep.
Under a big oak.
And you see those native, the wild ones.
Well, the rainbow, if you want some, as you know, you can use that seed to grow a rainbow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, I'm a little mystified by it.
I grow my calamondins in a pot.
Yeah.
And it's probably 5 feet across, so I keep cutting it back, and it's got greening all over, but it grows.
It grows. That's why mine is.
Yep.
All right, honorable mention. I know I left some things out. Crafton can yell at me. But, we don't, when I said honorable mention, I mean, we get those, we grow those, we share those, but there's just not a lot of volume in terms of these. Doesn't mean that there won't be. Josh Jameson gave me the Amarillo. He grafts that onto something, and the Guatemalans love those. They just, we could, in my wax John Blue, if the squirrels would leave me alone, it produces tons right now. All right, we're getting towards the end. By the way, we don't just do fruit. I mean, we're vegetable. We believe you should eat your vegetables, and so I made these categories up. And so you can see basically what we are growing or receiving in terms of non-fruit stuff, if we're using whatever definition of non-fruit, the vegetables or the root crops. Any question on that?
I raise a lot of the edible gourds that just produce like gangbusters with like no issues like I have trying to raise squash.
Yeah.
And just bucket loads.
I want to know more.
Yes, the bottle gourds.
Yeah.
The ridge gourds. I order from
Those
Seeds
are
of India.
good because in Asia, those are big time.
Literally, and then whatever I don't eat, I feed my chickens, and they eat every scrap.
Why did I not think of that?
You can bait your chickens.
All right, this is where I feel dumb. She's exactly right. Those do grow. They love.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We did them at the middle school.
It's
the
very
kids did.
Asian.
The kids were like standing with these. It was hysterical.
You can also eat the tips, the shoots.
I think I know on the chayote
Yeah.
that the leaves are edible. I'm starting
Oh,
with those.
chayote in Thailand, they call that Hmong vegetable because it grows up in the Hmong villages up in the hills.
Uh-huh.
They're delicious. They're absolutely wonderful. Anyway, that's it. I mean, aloe vera, people go nuts about aloe vera. They love it. It's a tonic. Bitter. All right.
The pigeon pea for the peas or
Yeah.
or for the nitrogen or
All of the above.
flowers or
All of the, but mainly it's the Haitians that like the pigeon pea, so they're gonna, and we will let it, in our case, we just let it go mature, brown, and pick the pods brown, and we don't shell them. So the cow peas, we do not shell, so people will get those and they're gonna shell, and the field pea that I have, it is the best thing ever. It's another Asian type field pea. The Filipinos would call it bushitao. In Thailand, it's a long bean, but not as long as the longest long bean. It's a long bean like that. It grows fast. It grows up about this big and just bunches out incredible biomass, grows through the summer. I do not have many pests on it at all, and it just very politely puts the pods out there for you to pick in great numbers. And we cannot supply enough of those either. If you want some, I've got some seeds to share with you. But I don't have them right now. I was an idiot and didn't bring it. So reach out to me, we'll figure out a way.
Do you have like more than one planting plot in the market?
Yeah. We got several. Because we don't have any land. So we're beggars.
The city might give you some news. How many years do you got of your pigeon peas?
Pigeon pea, you plant that pigeon pea right now, and the one I have, I call it Christmas and Easter. You know why? It's going to be ready by Christmas. Then it has another crop at Easter.
Right, but I mean, they will seem to live for several years.
No. I think it's really best to be an annual.
Better kill it.
I think so. Although, as soon as I say that, then it'll grow and be around for 2 or 3 years. But the lower you cut it, the least happy it's going to be as well. But you're right. It's not a lot of longevity there. All right, we're getting close to the end. Thank you for your yes, sir.
Would you say a word about chippeline?
Oh, chippeline. How many of you know chippeline? How many of you know chippeline?
No, where is it?
Chippeline is a Central American perennial vegetable, and I imagine that Crafton has eaten a lot. I do not have a sophisticated palate for the chippeline, and so the Guatemalans will come to our garden and they taste it and they'll go, you know, that's okay, but that's not the best chippeline I've ever tasted. And I taste and I go, I don't know what you're tasting, but they taste it. And it goes into tamales. It goes into other dishes as well. I've only had it in the tamales, and I can't taste it in the tamale crack, and I'm embarrassed to say that. I act like I can taste it. Like, oh, that's some good chippeline, but I'm lying because I can't taste it. Don't eat it raw. My neighbor, for some reason, did it, and man, they had to call poison control. Alkaloids will kill you. So, and we didn't tell him to eat it raw. He shouldn't have done that.
So you steam it?
Yeah, I mean, you need to cook it, and it takes care of
So
it.
you told him afterwards.
He was kind of mad at me when I said, "Hey, Loroco. What can you say about Loroco? Anybody know about Loroco?
I mean, I just wonder how many people know it.
How many here know Loroco? 2, 3.
It's available at the international store, canned.
Yeah.
And it has been brought into this country for growing here, but I don't know anyone who has it.
I've got it, and it grows well on that fence.
Go to the doctor and get rid
And
of it.
Pastor Miguel gave us two thumbs up over it. He was.
And episote used to be common in Tennessee when I was a kid.
I didn't know that.
But I would have a hard time finding it in the country now.
Where in Tennessee did you grow up? Where in
Northeast
Tennessee? All right.
I mean West Tennessee.
Okay, in the Eastern, we didn't know about it. Tastes like bleach to me, but.
No, but episode, every household in Bolivia has episode.
That's right. It's an essential. It's one of the essential herbs, and they consume it with beans. It's supposed to reduce flatulence, and there's a flavor that a lot of people do like with that. It's an important one. You'll see ruta, haru, and that, so that is one of the essentials. And once you got it, it doesn't go away.
I don't know who brought it into Tennessee, but when I was a child, 84 years ago, it was common wheat. And it grew 6 feet tall. And our biggest use of it was after frost, we kids like to put the twigs into a hot fire because they would sparkle like sparklers. Just don't really
See, I've just learned three things. Epizote grew in Tennessee. Number 3, Crafton's 84. I didn't know that. And then 2, and then 3, you can make a sparkler out of it. I mean, that is tons of information right there. Just wrapping up, folks. We depend. We want. Oh, ma'am.
I wanted to know, are you familiar with GAC?
Yes,
From
I grew
Vietnam?
GAC and then I brought some through USDA, but I brought some to Echo.
Well, Chris Rollins had it growing over at the Fruit and Spice Park many years ago, and then he said it became invasive. But I had it growing at my property from seed that I'd gotten there, and then some guy who was working for me doing yard work thought he'd do me a big favor and ripped out all the vines that were right up by the fence, and that included, he ripped out huge GAC vines.
Well, that happened with our Loroco, but we've saved it, but we almost lost it.
Do you still have GAC anywhere?
I don't know. I don't know if Echo. I mean, you could check with Stacy Swartz
I can call Stacy.
Yeah, she would know. But
Okay.
I brought
Thank
it
you.
over
Yeah.
because around 2010 in Thailand and other parts of Southeast Asia, GAC was like the it plant. It was like the one that would save you from cancer and all that. So it got really popular for various reasons.
Wow.
We have several churches. That's Echo. That's Cornerstone Methodist there in Naples. So Crafton was involved with the orchard there. So we have numerous institutions, church gardens that are providing food for us, and we are very grateful for that. And then go on to the next slide.
Have you reached out to the county for public land?
We have, yes,
For
we're working through the
roadways
CRA.
and
We're
things?
trying to work through the CRA on that as well.
Good.
And then home gardeners, we have dozens of gardeners, and we want dozens more. You know, it's anywhere from someone might bring a few lemons from their patio to the jackfruit lady who provided us with hundreds of pounds, if not more. I think it was 900 some pounds. All of this is so important, and we're grateful for it, and I'm just dropping hints at you in a big way. And then the next slide is, most importantly, is the Immokalee-based efforts. Guys, and if I've given you any impression that Immokalee is a sad, pitiful place, I don't mean that at all. That is not the case. It is a vibrant, upbeat place. Those folks are wonderful, and that sense of mutual aid where they will help each other out. And so we are working to promote and learn from each other and exchange where food is being grown and shared. And they're donating to that food pantry at Mission Peniel. Chicken proof, yeah. All right. So this is my place now. So I went I'm bragging. I'm sorry, my wife didn't like me to put that in there, but I'm just letting you know what I know. I've only lived here for 9 years. I mean, I've done gardening. I mean, I studied. Yeah, I have a master's in agriculture. It doesn't help, but I bought stuff from Echo, and I talked to Crafton, and I talked to folks like you, and we exchange ideas. We learn from each other, and it's just a matter of finding what to grow in the right place and taking advantage of that. But I got over a ton of food, literally a ton of food last year off of that 1/3 of an acre. If I can, I'm just saying, if I can do it, you can do it.
Where are you living now?
I live really close to Echo. I live
North Fort Myers.
North Fort Myers.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's always food. I mean, there for us, and then there's more to share, and that's the whole point. And it's my joy to work in the garden. It's my stress relief. That's why it's so lush. You see the stress that I and I love perennial peanut. I just love it.
Oh, they are. Good idea.
All right. so sharing the food. So every Friday, this is, so we'll bring in the food. There's lupita up there. Somebody brought in lanyais from Immokalee. And so that was being, everything is weighed and we put it out into portions, or we share it directly out front. There's our donations there. We have still have social distancing in Immokalee because if people get sick, they cannot work. And if they cannot work, they might not be able to pay the rent. So we're being really careful there. That's the food being put together, and then the food is being shared. And so yesterday we had a little less than 300. We were lower than expected. The week before that, it was over 400. So at the most, we'll have 500. So right now we're leaving season. So people are leaving to go work in other places, but they're always year-round residents in Immokalee. Any questions about that? And that's, so far we've had around 90,000 pounds, and I think this is the last slide. Team Mango, if you'll join us, we'll be happy. And I can send you this where you can rip out the parts you're not interested in. It's a PDF, so if you reach out to me.
I'll send it out to her.
Yeah. So anyway, we're very grateful to Mission Peniel, our host. And I'm very grateful for you. Thank you. I'm sorry I talked so long.
Distribution on Fridays, right?